Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of SVT Post Super Bowl.
Yeah. Or
That was
no.
for most of us. We didn't care because we don't got a dog in the fight. Our boy Vince,
I had a fucking Rottweiler in this fight, man, and it
yeah,
got ate alive.
Hey, that was
Oh, hey,
like,
there's your F
yeah, I
bomb.
was gonna
Wow,
say,
look at that. That was quick.
I don't know if you beat me. We'll have to go to the tail of the tape here to see here, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
may have beat me.
We'll circle back around and get the official count on that one. But damn.
so very, yeah, it's our, right after the Super Bowl. No scores to cover except the big game. This one, Vince, what was the final score? Then just jumping into after that score.
The final score was Usher performed 12 songs. It was great.
What a mean question,
Ugh.
man. What that's so mean. Hey Vince, how did you get
What's
your
the
heart ripped
score?
out?
All right, so the 49ers lose in overtime 25-22 to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is your MVP to the surprise of absolutely no one. And I believe I said it last week that the one thing I didn't want was Patrick Mahomes with the ball, like with the last shot. That's what I said. I did say that. I was very concerned about that. And wouldn't you fucking know it, your boy is still the Oracle, even in bad things too. It's not all wins, you know. So that's fun for me. Somebody cue up My Chemical Romance because I'm not okay.
I think what's crazy is that they won the game on the same stupid play that they beat the Eagles with last year. The corn dog play, as Andy Reid has now coined it. Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
Did you hear Andy Reid was texting Antonio Pierce, thanking him for beating the Kansas City Chiefs earlier in the season?
On Christmas.
Yeah, just saying, hey, like a veteran team needs to be reminded that they're mortal. Kind of that sentiment.
It was the wake up call. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was like, "Thanks, beautiful facilities in Vegas. Thanks for beating us. It reminded us that we got work to do. So you're welcome, Chiefs. You're welcome. Man, what do you in summary, Vince? What do you think it came down to? I got a couple of ideas.
Yeah, I
of
mean,
what it came down to, but
there's honestly probably like a dozen different things. Like any one of them breaks a different way. The Niners are the champions. Like
Right.
There was so many opportunities. We can start right at the beginning, the first drive. The Niners are driving down the field, no problems whatsoever, right up until Christian McCaffrey, of all people, fumbles the ball. You know, Patrick Starr roasted him alive for that on the Nickelodeon broadcast.
Yeah.
So we can start there. We can start with Trent Williams, a false start and a holding penalty on the same drive to end the next drive. Like, I mean, these are guys that you don't get to the Super Bowl without them, And so they make those mistakes. It's like, well, what are you gonna do? You just kind of suck it up and move on. And the Niners still ended up with a lead. And they even when they even briefly got down at the end of the game there and was able to come back and score and take the lead. Then there was just enough time, like just under 2 minutes, and Patrick Mahomes marched him down the field and got that tying field goal. And then the overtime, it's coming out now, like after post game, that the Niners weren't aware of the overtime rules in the playoffs. And that's because they've made the rules more and more unnecessarily convoluted in the last few years because of the fucking Bills, they were bitching about how they didn't get a shot or whatever, and then the Niners get the ball first, they go down, they end up getting that field goal, and Kyle's explanation was that he wanted to be able to be the team that gets the ball third. But of course, the problem is being the team that gets the ball second. If you can hold them to a field goal like the Chiefs held the Niners to the field goal, you go down, score a touchdown, and you win, or you have the field goal in your back pocket to survive another round. But
yeah,
I mean, there was like we can talk about the when the Niners forced a punt and then it hits off of, I don't even know who it was, some special teamer, and then Ray McLeod like has to try to make a play on it because it's, you know, it's a live ball at that point. I mean, I appreciate him trying to make a play on the ball. I wish he would have dove on it instead of trying to field it cleanly, because nobody ever fields those cleanly. Come on. I mean, that's the one mistake. And in the heat of the moment, you just, you know, you're trying to act reactively. And I wish he would have dove on it instead of trying to like pick it up and scoop it up. There's just so many opportunities that were left on the table when you go down and you kick field goals instead of getting a touchdown at any one of those field goals. If you get a touchdown instead, I loved going for it on fourth down with Kittle, and he gets it, and like you could see the first down cam, and he's basically, his shin takes it out, so you know he got it on that fourth down. That was a gutsy call. I wish I kind of saw a few more of those gutsy type calls earlier in the game. That third quarter, they basically went away from the run entirely. It was three and outs in a row. CMC had a 7-yard run, but overall you netted negative, I think maybe 2 yards total in 3 drives in the third quarter. Like that is unacceptable. It just it allowed the Chiefs to hang around, and I think for most of the game the Niners were the better team, but just something happened again, and here I am. As an adult, I've seen 3 Super Bowl losses in the last dozen years or so, and it's rough. This one might be the worst. It's the toughest, because you have a lead in overtime, which of course was something a decade ago. Doesn't matter. You can't have a lead in overtime. You just win in overtime, right? I mean, so between all kinds of stuff like that, as far as the officiating goes, yeah, there's a couple of calls here and there that were a little bit Charmin. I called them like when we were watching, but there's nothing you can really complain about, nothing egregious that you can point and say, that's the reason, that bad call, whatever. I mean, I wish there would have been a couple more of those holding calls against the Chiefs, you know, but the Niners still, even with those, they did a great job most of the night, kind of keeping Patrick Mahomes like from escaping and creating a lot of plays. The Chiefs had a bunch of 3 and outs too. I mean, the defense overall played great until the end, when
Yeah.
I think they were just gassed. Like the offense couldn't bail them out with you know, those 3 straight 3 and outs. Just between that, and then you also lose Dre Greenlaw early in the game too.
Yeah, I was going to bring that
It's
up.
an Achilles. It's just, there's so many things. If Dre Greenlaw is playing in that second half, I don't even think it goes to overtime. I think the Niners win it straight up. Like it's just unlucky things happening on top of poor execution in certain instances, and there's a dozen little things, like I said, if any one of them breaks the other way, we're talking about a completely different story. Like if everything else happened that happened, but Dre Greenlaw is able to play the entire game, I think the Niners win. Like there's any one of them, man. If the Niners score that touchdown on the first opening drive, I think the Niners are probably winning, like holding the trophy.
Even if they have
and
to
I'm in the
settle
best
for a
mood.
field goal, you know,
Yeah,
even if they settle for
a field goal.
even if they settle for
We
the
can
field
talk
goal.
about Moody missing the point after, which kind of
Yep.
changes the complexion of the game as well. And the Chiefs needing to score a touchdown instead of just settling for a field goal at the end there. That would have changed the game a little bit, changed the optics, changed the way you call the game, the plays you're calling on defense and offense too. Just, I mean, it's rough. It's brutal. This was the one. The Chiefs were the most beatable they've ever been, and Patrick Mahomes still did generationally talented things to will the Chiefs to win. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to those of you Chief haters out there. We tried. It didn't work out. I'm more devastated than you are. I'm real glad I'm a Warriors fan too, because if it wasn't for the Warriors, I don't have a single championship since I was 8 years old with the Niners winning the last Super Bowl 29 years ago. That's another thing that, like, I was doing the math on my way over to your place to watch it, Sam. The Niners won 5 of the first 29 Super Bowls. There's been 29 Super Bowls since then, and the Niners don't have a single win there. So
Yeah.
like a little top heavy in the first half of career Super Bowls there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Tyler,
All
you
right.
wanna add
Yeah, so
anything?
I'm gonna drink some water. Somebody else start speaking.
Um, yeah, I think it's just pretty much the same thing that I had emotions and feelings last year, against the same stupid team. Um,
And I
I
just want to
think,
say it was the same feelings I had back in 2003. So
yeah, yeah.
Right.
It
You were
wasn't
a
against the
fresh
same team
faced,
though.
late teen, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Moody missed. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm a fan or I'll stand up for Moody. Not that I would anyways, but I felt that all season long he's kind of
yeah,
come up short when you
you
needed him
have
the
been.
There's
most.
been
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
every now and then he'll miss one and remind you something happens where it's like, oh yeah, he's a rookie. Like
Yeah,
that extra point, he kicked it off of his ankle. He got none of his foot,
Yeah.
man. Like it was poor execution.
yeah. So that Moody changes a big part of it. I don't really care about the Christian McCaffrey fumble because then Pacheco fumbled it on the 2 yard line. So, I feel like we're gonna call that a wash at that point,
Yeah.
right? So I think the Moody thing is a big deal. I think Shanahan saying what he did about overtime was probably just to cover his own ass. I think he legit forgot about the overtime rules too.
Mhm.
It's only been in a rule for 2 years, right? So yeah, you should know, but if you didn't know, that's shame on you. But at the same time, to Vince's point, rules change all the time. But if it were me and that was the rule in place, you're kicking the ball, you knew Andy Reid was licking his chops. Like, oh, this guy is really going to go for the receiving. Like, the chessboard is set up for me now to figure out if I want to tie this game or win this game. So, um, that's probably the two biggest mistakes I would probably say is that kick and then the overtime. Other than that, I mean, I think it was a great officiated game. I mean, both sides had penalties called against them. Nothing was super egregious. So you're like, wow, that shouldn't be I mean, some of them were like, wow, that's not a penalty, but it was for both sides too. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It was a fair. It was called equally fair.
yes.
I
I
mean,
agree.
and they were letting them play a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
at least on the as far as pass interference goes. Like
Yeah.
both sides were getting away with a little bit more than I would have liked.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think losing Greenlaw, that's a big blow. And on a freak accident. I mean, he was excited for his guys to get a stop and he got to go out there and popped his Achilles. So maybe that's a factor because you lose this morale support of like, oh man, one of our best players on defense has gone down, right? So maybe that is a factor in their head. If you're going to point to three key things, that'd probably be my third key factor, but biggest being that kick and then the overtime decision to receive the ball instead of kicking it.
Yeah, you're talking about 2/3 of the game without Dre Greenlaw, and that's rough. So yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
And
you got to think Dre Greenlaw's going to make a play or here or there, stop it,
Mhm.
stop a first down.
being able to play,
Yeah,
like
just
shadow Patrick Mahomes if he escapes like that 20-yard run that he had. Dre Greenlaw stops that for like 4 yards or something like that.
Exactly.
yeah, I mean,
Little things like that.
we were watching a little bit of the post game on the 49ers station, and Whitner was kind of talking about how it changed, the linebacker schemes, and who's covering who and what Dre Greenlaw does. So it definitely disrupted what the 49ers wanted to do on defense. For the most part, they recovered and played pretty well. But Greenlaw definitely would have, made it a little bit tougher. I think it does, the extra point kick in a regular season game, you're probably not really worried about it, right? But it seems like when you miss a easy kick, I'll say, extra point, it's always going to bite you in the ass in the playoffs
My
or Super
rule
Bowl.
is any kick under 40 yards should be makeable by anybody at the NFL level, and those
Right.
extra points, they you take them at 33 yards basically
Right.
every time. So every extra point is makeable as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, that's an emotional dagger at least.
Yeah.
If it's
And
not a real dagger.
I'll say the overtime rules, the misunderstanding of the overtime rules were after the fact, you hear that the 49ers players weren't really prepared for that scenario. And then you hear Kansas City that pretty much all year they've been dedicating time talking about playoff rules and the differences in playoff rules. And Andy Reid, since the playoffs started, they've been running drills 4 playoffs and developing plans what they were going to do, and every scenario was covered. And they said that if the 49ers scored a touchdown, they knew they had the rebuttal, and they were going to their goal was to march back down the field, get a touchdown, and go for 2. And so they weren't going to even attempt allow the 49ers to attempt a third possession, of the game. And that just kind of feeds into, what we hear about Andy Reid. I know there was some drama about the practice facilities that the 49ers had. And there was some scrutiny getting thrown towards the Chiefs because Andy Reid didn't want to alter his schedule. And his history is he doesn't want to alter his schedule. He's very schedule calendar oriented. And I think some of those details kind of showed up. And it showed up definitely in overtime, understanding the rules, understanding what everybody needs to do. I think teams take on the identities of their head coaches, and you see that the Kansas City Chiefs, when it comes to crunch time, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, those guys they represent their coach. They know the details. They know what they need to do to make big plays. And as one, I heard it on the radio somewhere today that the Kansas City Chiefs put on their gold jackets and went to work. Like, they made gold jacket plays.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for the 49ers, that was the big difference maker is Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, these guys made Hall of Fame legendary plays. I think I've said this before. I was hoping the 49ers would win. I ended up picking the Chiefs because of our show bet competition that we got.
Yeah.
Part of me did feel the Chiefs money was coming in on the Chiefs because of that crunch time, because of the Hall of Fame. That championship DNA was gonna shine through. So it was unfortunate, but man, the Chiefs, it all starts at the quarterback for every team. It all starts at the quarterback, and there's like what 3 quarterbacks in the league that you could say like, oh, this is a for sure guy you want to build around. Everybody else, you can make the argument.
Yeah.
You can make the argument, but until it's done, until they do something and get there. And I think the 49ers got a quarterback. I'm not knocking Purdy. I'm not knocking the 49ers. I think they'll be right back next year. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, for context, at this time last year, Brock Purdy was having his elbow getting Tommy John surgery to it at this time last year. And for baseball, it takes a full year to come back. And this man was starting on opening day in September. So it was already a pretty miraculous comeback just to be on the field. I knew I had questions whether he would be able to start at the beginning of the year. And I voiced them on this channel several times until they confirmed, yeah, he's going to be ready. He's good to go. At that point, it's like, fine, but you just never know. And I will say Brock was already setting records, like single season records for quarterbacking for the 49ers this year. Imagine having a full year where he's not doing rehab on his elbow just to come back, where he can just train like normal and get better in that way. Not trying to come back from a major injury. He's able to just do the normal program. And I think next year we might see something Drew Brees-esque out of Brock Purdy next year. That's my early hot take.
It was unfortunate that Brock Purdy had an opportunity to win the game, but that blown offensive coverage, what's the right guard? Brunskill?
Yeah.
Brunskill missed that coverage, which allowed the Chiefs to
Chris
run
Jones
right up
blew it up.
Blew right past him, and Purdy
Brock
had to unload
2 guys open.
But
two guys open on that play.
But he had Ayuk dead center.
Ayuk dead center in the back, and then he ended up going with Jawan. He couldn't plant and deliver to Jawan.
He couldn't step into the throw. He couldn't step up and deliver the ball accurately like we've come to expect from him. But the game was there. There was opportunities there. It's sad for the 49ers, but I think the Purdy is on his rookie deal. He's not making a whole lot of money. So you're gonna be able to retain some of your talent and probably add some talent. And it seems like the 49ers are doing pretty good in their draft. So hopefully that continues. I think they're right back there. We talked about the Eagles are probably going to be right back there. I think the Eagles hired really good coordinators, so I think they're going to be right back in it. As long as the Chiefs have Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kelsey, they're going to be in it.
And all of them are coming back too. Nobody's
Yeah,
retiring.
So
yeah.
that's a good point, Sam, is that Purdy was drafted where he was, that this is essentially, for a comparison, this is your Steph Curry moment, that you've got a guy who's not going to be requiring a lot of money because of where he was drafted.
Exactly.
That you definitely have a lot of more money to be able to expend on ways to build your team and talent wise. So
I think
do expect him to be back as well.
offensively, the number one thing that the 49ers need, they need a wide receiver that can blow the top off. They got really good wide receivers that can catch the ball and get physical, the Yak brothers and all of that stuff. They need a guy that can go deep, that could just blow past everybody when that time comes that you need it.
My dad in the chat saying he would like to see the Niners spend some money on offensive line besides Trent Williams. 100% agree. Really improving that, having somebody who's a dog besides Trent, that would be nice. That would help a lot. And maybe that play doesn't get blown up. Maybe Brock is able to see, oh, Brandon Ayuk is wide fucking open. He got schemed open real well. He made a nice move. And there's the game right there. That's a touchdown. And then the Chiefs have to play that entire their side of it completely differently.
Absolutely.
So
all right. Any you guys got anything else for the 49ers Super Bowl?
I'm good. I'm good for now. If there's anything else, I'm sure I'll shout out about it. And another thing or whatever. Okay, so let's move on. There was the on Thursday the NFL had their awards night, and so that's when you
let's look at the hardware here. One of them I have a question about, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Real quick, I feel like they need to announce this crap like immediately after the season, not the week, couple days before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's all
regular
lost.
season. It's all regular season stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they used to like kind of trickle this stuff out, like one a day for like a week during the divisional round of the playoffs or whatever, tally the votes and everything. But yeah, they started doing this like honors thing, this award show type thing because the NHL actually started doing it and they saw some success. So the NFL's like, oh, that's a cool idea. We'll do it. We'll take that and then just make it way better than what the NHL does. So so there we are. That's how that happened. All right, so let's go ahead.
Also, when they announced Patrick Mahomes as the MVP, I felt like that went completely under the radar. Like I didn't even know they had announced
I didn't even know it.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah. Yeah.
We assumed it, but I didn't know it.
The only time that it was like the Super Bowl trophy was there, Patrick Mahomes thanked a couple of people, and then but it was the Super Bowl trophy. I didn't even see the MVP trophy or anything. It was just over.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So Hall of Fame enshrinement: Julius Peppers, Andre Johnson, Dwight Freeney, Patrick Willis, and Devin Hester are elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The senior committee selected Randy Gradishar and Steve McMichael, all very worthy people to go in. Patrick Willis, obviously the 49er for his entire career, he would have gone in on this was his third ballot. He would have gone in first ballot if he played 3 more years. He chose to walk away after 8, like right in the middle of his prime, but he was starting to have problems with his feet. And so he decided to walk out on top, instead of
literally.
Mm-hmm.
Andre Johnson is my first ballot Hall of Famer simply for his awesome fight with Cortland Finnegan, if you guys remember that one.
Cortland Finnegan was on the Titans at that point, right? Yeah, yeah.
Where they ripped each other's helmets off and actually started throwing blows. Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
That was a top 10, even if ESPN didn't want to make it a top 10.
Right. Yeah, for reasons. Okay. So
Devin Hester.
Yeah, Devin Hester. That's the one. That's the one I was like, he's the greatest punt returner in the history of the NFL. Let's get that out of the way. That being said, I don't know that punt returning should the everything else that he did in his career besides punt returning, was not Hall of Fame worthy to me.
To
And
me,
yeah,
if
I don't
you're
know.
gonna
It's kind of
have,
tough. Like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
much
to me, if
impact does he really have? Like, he scored 18 touchdowns. Every kicker that plays 10 years has more points, total points scored than he does. Like, he's like even 5 years really for a lot of those guys.
yeah, if you're gonna have specialty guys getting in for these types of things, then our assistant coaches and coordinators, are they getting in?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
I
I don't
don't
know
know. I
whether
don't
they
know
should or shouldn't, but it's a good question to ask.
because I don't know. I don't know of any
where's the
coaches that
line?
got in that got in as a career defensive coordinator, a career offensive coordinator, because
Yeah,
we were
Vic
talking about
Fangio's
this.
not getting in.
We were talking about this last night. I think you may have already left, Vince, but we were talking about the Chiefs defensive coordinator Spagnuolo, and you look at the defenses he put together as a coordinator, and the amount of rings he has now as a DC, and the historic run. That was like the first touchdown he allowed last night. Was like the first touchdown he allowed in many Super Bowl quarters now in the second half. Like, so his in-game adjustments and locking teams down in the second half, he's on a historic run. Would a coordinator get in? So if we're allowing specialty guys to get in, why not other roles part of the franchise is my question. I don't know. I mean, congrats to Devin Hester. I'm not here to
Yeah, no,
crap
what
on
he did
anything.
for for that position, that's the greatest all time
Right.
returner. I don't think anybody's pushing back on that.
Right.
It's literally just how much of an effect does that part of the game really have, and everything. Like I said, everything else. They tried him at wide receiver. They tried him at cornerback, and
Didn't work. None of it
yeah,
worked.
he was not a Hall of Famer at those positions. I will
Right.
say that. But yeah, he definitely for like the Bears were in the Super Bowl because of him. Like it wasn't because of Rex Grossman. I will say that.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of a borderline question mark thing. I wouldn't have put him in. I would have voted for a couple of other guys that didn't get in instead. But obviously, I don't have a vote, so all we can do is just like sit here and say, just talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what other awards do we have. We have Christian McCaffrey winning Offensive Player of the Year. That's comes as a surprise to no one. He very
here's my controversial one here.
No. Actually, I'm gonna skip that and come right back to it though. Myles Garrett is Defensive Player of the Year. Another guy that's well worth it. I think
I don't think he should have won that, to be honest with you.
You don't. Who should have won it instead?
It should have been the Steelers.
TJ Watt.
Should have been him.
I think I honestly like the counting stats were a little bit higher with TJ Watt.
He led the league in sacks until he got hurt.
I'm not upset about it. I think Myles Garrett's a quality player. So here we are. Here it is. Joe Flacco is your comeback player of the year.
Should not have been.
I guess the league determined that coming back from playing with the Jets is equal to coming back from being dead.
Yeah, so, should have been DeMar Hamlin. Hamlin should have been the comeback player of the year. That is the most literal sense of the award.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. He went full Jesus on him, but
I think you got to define like what does it mean to come back. Like DeMar Hamlin came back and earned a roster spot and is alive. But then there was other players that overcame injuries and came back and
overcoming sucking and playing for the Jets.
Where what's his name Flacco said it kind of he said it himself. He goes, well, I kind of just came back off the couch,
Right.
like I just came back and into the league because I was sitting on the couch. So I don't really know if he's comeback player of the year. I think that, the definition of what does it mean of coming back is eye of the beholder, I guess you can say.
Yeah. All right. So Lamar Jackson is your MVP. I think everybody kind of knew that that's what was going to happen. In terms of the counting stats, his numbers are a lot lower than a bunch of other people who were MVP, but that's neither here nor there. He's definitely a worthy recipient, and that's now two for him. And everybody else that has 2 MVPs is either already in or will be in the Hall of Fame when their time comes. So
Just got it. I think he's a first ballot if he gets that one ring.
if he gets 1 ring, it's a first ballot.
I think so.
He may have to wait around if he doesn't. And also he just needs to keep piling up the stats.
Yep.
Yeah, so all right, moving on. CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, both of the Texans, are your offensive and defensive rookies of the year. And
They should have got coach of the year.
Yeah, I agree. They should have had the sweep there. Kevin Stefanski gets coach of the year. It should have been D'Amico Ryans as well, but I guess they wanted to spread out the awards a little bit. That's your tinfoil hat conspiracy theory there. And your Walter Payton man of the year. Here's your Steelers. It's Cam Hayward, the defensive tackle. And I mean, like all of these guys, like everybody, every team gets somebody nominated for Walter Payton man of the year. And every single one of these guys do a lot of work in the community, and they do a lot of great stuff. And I have no qualms with whoever they choose to win it, because it's always somebody who's doing a lot of good. So
yeah, how do you argue? Well,
yeah, I'm not.
This guy fundraised more money for more hospitals, or he kissed more sick children's foreheads, or something. I know, right? Like, come on, like, how do you?
He visited 3 cancer wards as opposed to 2 or whatever by the other guy. Yeah. There's no way to quantify that, so I don't have a problem. I'll never argue anybody winning man of the year.
Just off the cuff, something that I the Super Bowl trophy is the Vince Lombardi trophy.
Correct.
Right. Don't you feel like it should just be named the Bill Belichick trophy? Like, I feel like it should be like whatever coach has the most Super Bowls, just name it that. And then if somebody comes along and beats Bill Belichick's record of coaching Super Bowls, then it gets renamed, because it's hard for, like, I get the love and the romance of Vince Lombardi. But I think he's been surpassed probably by a few coaches. I mean, Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh, any coach named Bill. But I just think Belichick the amount of wins and career stats and Super Bowls he has. I think that would be kind of cool that the Super Bowl trophy is named. You could still have Vince Lombardi's name on it, but it's now, you add, kind of like a Stanley Cup, you add another name to it or something like that.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because Vince Lombardi, he won the first 2 Super Bowls, but he had 5 total NFL titles in his 7 years of coaching the Packers. So So he won 5 championships in 7 years. Excuse me. He coached the team for about 9 years, is what it looks like here.
Yeah.
And I just I get why they named it the Vince Lombardi Trophy, because if you you do name it after the guy that's winning it, and he wins the first 2 of them. So I kind of get it. And I don't like the idea of renaming a trophy if there's not a reason to. Like, if we find out that Vince Lombardi was like a really bad human who like kept kids like hostage, and or did any kinds of really bad evil stuff,
like Penn State.
yeah, like bad stuff that happened, like Joe Paterno, like what happened with Joe Paterno, turning a blind eye. Then you can rename it. But once you name a trophy, unless there's a reason to unname it, I think you let it be. So
even though he's not the best coach.
No, he's he did win a lot though. So he got 5 titles, and 2 of them were the Super Bowl, the first 2 Super Bowls. So it does make sense to me that it's named after him. And that name, they named it after him a few years after they already started playing Super Bowls. So that's fine. That's it for football notes. Do you guys have anything else football ways?
No.
Till next year.
All right.
Yeah, well, we got keep the track draft.
There's always off-season stuff, and we'll have and anytime there's any notes that come up in the football world at large, obviously we'll at least touch on it. So look forward to that as
Oh,
we
you know what was crazy is the Raiders hired Deshaun Foster as an assistant running backs coach about 2 weeks ago, and
Yep.
then today he just got announced as the UCLA head coach. So
whoops.
once a Raider, always a Raider.
Raiders legendary coach.
Yeah, thanks for the 2 weeks, bro.
I wonder
Nice
if they
work
even.
scheming up that one play.
I wonder if he even got a paycheck. Can you
Oh,
imagine? Oh man.
oh man. All right, so the Warriors, we're going to turn to basketball. The Warriors win 3 games in a row, and they're playing tonight at Utah. I think that game's actually underway as we speak. So they get the win at Philly, 127-104. They get a huge win at Indianapolis, Indiana, 131-109. That was a squeaker of a game against Phoenix that they get the win, 113-112. Curry with the dagger with 7/10 of a second left.
A couple things with
Oh.
that is me and Sam were at kind of a little bar in Alameda saying goodbye to a mutual friend, and we ended up catching that Phoenix game. Man, it's been a really long time that I've watched a game in a bar. That was electrifying. It was great. And when Curry hit that shot, I think the roof kind of crumbled there a little bit. We hit decibel levels that shook the whole entire building. So
Right.
that was
So
fun.
yeah. So the Warriors are back to 500. They are 10th in the West. So they are in the playoffs, the play-in tournament right now as it stands. We talked about it even last week. Like, get to 500, and now let's talk playoffs. So they're back at 500. They're playing Utah tonight. Let's start talking like what else can they do? They ended up not doing anything really major at the trade deadline. They send who was it, Corey Joseph? He got sent to Indiana, and then they immediately like cut him. So we'll
It was
see.
a money move to
Yeah.
clear the books and clear any kind of salary cap issues that you may have going into next season.
Right.
One thing too, the Utah game, Steve Kerr will not be coaching. Him
Right.
and Zaza Pachulia are in Serbia attending Milojevic's funeral services. So the assistants, I'm drawing a blank as I say right now.
Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah, yep, he'll be
He's gonna
coaching.
be coaching tonight. So other games coming up this week: Wednesday versus the Clippers. Thursday they go right back to play at Utah, and then they have a 1 week break. When they come back, I believe they play the Lakers, but I'll double check that. So you got 3 more games, including tonight, and then you get a nice little break right after the heading into the All-Star game, and then anybody that's not Steph Curry basically gets a little bit of a breather, a little bit of time away to recollect and just get ready for that final run. Maybe Klay Thompson can figure it out a little bit, and he said earlier today, I believe, that he's willing to stay with the Warriors and take a reduced role in the future, like for contract negotiations and stuff. So we'll see what
Yeah.
that means and what that leads to. And
I think because he didn't take that extension last year, right? It would have been like a $30 million, $40 million extension, something like that. He bet on himself, and unfortunately, it didn't work. But it's crazy, man. Like from what he was last year to now, it's just this collapse seems so rapid and so fast that it's really sad to watch. But at the same time, he had 2 catastrophic leg injuries, and I'm gonna value him. He was my favorite player. I only owned up until 2 weeks ago Clay jersey, so he was my favorite player. I it's crazy that we got to watch a whole entire career of someone at their peaks and now going towards the tail end of their career. But I'll remember, the game he had against the Kings with the 11 dribbles and the coming
60
back.
points in 3 quarters or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then coming back after those 2 leg injuries and getting the dunk against Cleveland. Just the amount of highs that we had, with this team. And now we're starting to see, maybe not with Curry, but the rest of it is getting towards the tail end of their careers for the most part. So, but I like the new guards. I like what we have going forward. I think TJD is great. I'm really liking the Kaminga's growth here. So hopefully we can get the other kids to step up. Pods has been amazing as far as a rookie goes, leads all of NBA in charges. So for
Yeah.
a rookie and a point guard.
Not afraid to put his body on the line,
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to the next coming of years. I think we've always said, what is the Warriors going to look like when, you know, the big three step down? And I think the future's bright with this team. So let's focus on the rest of the season, get into a playoff tournament, maybe even become a 6 seed, and maybe we don't even have to play in the play-in tournament. We'll see.
Yeah. So there's some work to do, but we got the All-Star break coming up, so it's a nice time to reset, I guess.
Yep.
It was a little weird that the All-Star break came after the trade deadline to me. I always like that feels
I always don't like
weird.
that.
The All-Star game was like maybe 2 weeks later than it should
Mhm.
be. They're trying to avoid the Super Bowl because the NFL added that extra game that pushed their schedule back an extra week, and that's everybody doesn't want to mess with the Super Bowl because that's a ratings disaster to try to put anything up of importance, because nobody's going to choose nobody's choosing the NBA All-Star game over the Super Bowl.
Unless you were peak Walking Dead.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you're Aisha Curry, you're not
Yeah.
you're not picking that. It's like, yeah, so we don't want to deal with that, and that's great that they decided to move it, but I wish they would have moved it before.
It could just lead to some awkwardness, especially in the All-Star game. Imagine playing for a team on the West and then you got traded to a team on the East, and but you became an All-Star with the team that was on the West. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it could lead
Yeah.
to some awkwardness, I
I mean,
think. So.
we've seen situations like that here and there, like Jeff Samardzija in 2014. He was an NL All-Star, but he was traded to the A's by the time the All-Star game actually came around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like little weird things like that happen sometimes. One more note on basketball. The in-season tournament has been renamed the Emirates NBA Cup, and that's after they land a sponsorship deal with the United Arab Emirates-based airline company. So, Emirates already like sponsors a lot of major stuff in sports all around the world, and the NBA is getting that money, their hands on that sweet UAE money.
I still say, you want to make this in-season tournament better, allow other countries to participate. Like, allow some Euro teams to participate. The only thing is that it's going to be a logistic nightmare, but
well, that's part of the problem. Like right now, this is only they only did it 1 year so far. So
I know. I'm just saying, you want to make it more interesting, allow other countries to participate.
Let's settle down and get this worked out first. Like the first season of it was fine, and the teams
The
actually
Lakers
did
held
care.
their banner.
Yeah, that's right. We'll see what the players do in year 2 of this tournament to see if it actually has legs. But so far the reports were good this first year. I don't know how much people will care going forward. We'll see. I don't know that I'm necessarily one of them that gives a damn, but other people, other people did. Apparently, I guess ratings were up for those games. The courts got some clean little fun designs on them.
Yeah.
So people at least tuned in for those. I was watching anyway, so whether the Warriors were playing or not in the in-season tournament, I was going to be watching the Warriors games for it anyway. So that didn't affect my viewership. It didn't make me start watching, but whatever. Okay. Any other notes on basketball?
Watching
Go win
it
some
live.
games.
All right. Yeah.
Keep
let's
winning.
get this W, huh? All right. So let's turn our attention to hockey then, and we have no games for the Sharks over this past week. They start playing again on Wednesday. They're still 15th in the West. They're only 2 points clear of Chicago, but they lost Tomas Hertl this morning. He's having left knee surgery to clean up some loose cartilage. The team knew about it, and he was cleared to play in the All-Star game, but he's been feeling this pain on and off for a few months now. So he's having the surgery done now, and he's going to be out a few weeks, and maybe he's done for the season, maybe not. We'll see how he reacts to the surgery afterwards. It could only be 4 weeks. It could be 6 or 8. And if it's 8 weeks, that's basically the end of the season. So, and the Sharks aren't going to the playoffs. He's the top scorer for the team, and you lose your top scorer on a team that already has trouble scoring. And this is a recipe for disaster. So we'll see how it goes. Right now, he's in year 2 of his 8-year contract that he signed. He has a full no movement clause through the end of next season. After that, he submits 3 teams, and they could accept a trade that he would accept a trade to. And at any point, he can also be asked, and he'd say, "Yeah, I'll waive my no trade clause for that," or "No, I won't." So if they're looking to get some picks for him, it's not happening anytime soon. Uh, William Eklund might be able to get some extended run at center though during this time, and so we'll see how he responds. And I mean, if he has some versatility, that makes it all the better. The Sharks haven't had a chance to play their full complement of centers yet for the entire year, so the injury bugs have just, as bad as the team is, like they've also been injured, making matters worse. So.
Yep.
A bad team with injuries to your top players means you got a really bad team, and that's kind of what's happened here. So kind of rough, but they do play this week. They got games Wednesday at Winnipeg, Thursday at Calgary, Saturday versus Columbus at home, and then Monday at home versus Vegas. So here's the question: what game are they going to win this week? What do you think?
They're gonna beat Vegas.
All right, Sam. I'm putting it down. All right.
Shocker.
I think I'm going to take the easy way out and choose Columbus.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
It's a bad team. It's an East Coast team. It's an Eastern Division team. Yeah, they're at the bottom of the East. They're a few points clear of the Sharks, though. Like they're the worst team in the East is still better than the worst 3 teams in the West, I think. So
I'll take Calgary.
all right. So everybody has a chance. Everybody's live. Calgary's also not terribly good. So
I
there
saw
we
something
go.
crazy. Like in 2 different games, like within the last 3 days, there's been an empty net, and like 2 guys have just gone and slap shot the crap out of it, leading
Oh
to like
yeah,
gigantic fights.
Morgan Riley absolutely ripped one like at an empty netter, and so Ottawa took exception, and it's
Yeah,
a bit of a rivalry game. So I think there might have been something happened earlier that he didn't like, and so he was giving it to them by ripping a clapper at the empty netter. And
yeah, and then there was another game that was had like the same result. I was like, what is happening? What are we doing here?
yeah, things are getting wild. Yeah, we're getting toward the end of the season. Tempers are flaring. So yeah, it's just if you're on a good team and you're playing a rival, you get a little extra hot sauce if you can. You're gonna pour it on.
Yeah.
So speaking of rivals, the Winter Classic 2025 will be hosted by Chicago at Wrigley Field. They will be playing the St. Louis Blues. That's going to be your New Year's game on January 1st, 2025. So next year. And I mean, that's going to be fun. I think Wrigley's done this game before. Normally they've been they were trying to host it at football stadiums a lot, but I think that they've found that baseball stadiums, for the just for the number of people that you can get in there, is probably a little bit better. So unless you're able to fill up a football stadium, it's just a lot better to have 40,000 that are into it for the outdoor, this of it all, as opposed to maybe having 50,000 in a stadium that holds 70.
Didn't they do like multiple on the same day, like multiple locations? Or am I crazy?
No, they didn't do that. But what they have done is had it set up like in New York. They've had it set up for like 4 teams to play. Like in back-to-back nights or alternating nights. So that's a stadium series coming up in a couple weeks, I think.
I feel like it'd be fun if they did one on the West Coast, Midwest, and the East Coast. Everyone
It would
gets
be
a chance. Yeah, every market gets to watch their own Winter Classic game,
I mean, Chicago's probably had like 4 or 5 of these outdoor games.
I know.
The Sharks have had 1, and that was like 2016.
And it wasn't even in Tahoe.
Yeah, the
one that they did in Tahoe, it wasn't even the Sharks involved, which is bullshit.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. I think it would be cool to just have 3 of them. You could do one at, I guess, at Oracle Park. You could do one there. Be a fun.
Yeah, I think Oracle Park would be a lot of fun. They're not doing it at the Coliseum. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's probably not happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. There was one other thing that was hockey related. There was something else. I can't remember it. It's gone. Fuck.
There it goes.
Dynamite content, ladies
There
and
it goes.
gentlemen. It's fucking gone.
Say goodbye.
Bye.
There it
Auf
goes.
Wiedersehen. All right. So if it comes back, I'll shout it out. Let's move on. Tyler, how did Wrexham do this week?
Not good. They are sliding down like a gigantic water slide here. They lost again to Bradford City, 1-0. They are currently 15-7-7, fifth place, still 52 points because they haven't won a game. They are upcoming game. Now, this is where we're starting to make up some of these waterlogged pitch games or rained out games or tournament games that led them to postpone another one. So, Sutton United, they're playing tomorrow. Notts County, they're playing on Saturday. I don't know if Notts County's rivalry feels like what it used to be, knowing that the head coach isn't really there anymore. But nonetheless, it is still the National League rival to Wrexham at this time. But they got to start winning some games. I don't know what is going on. I don't really think they have anybody that's injured. They didn't really make a big splash in the transfer window. They did sign one right wing back, but in reality, nothing that's crazy that's going to move the needle. So, and unfortunately, there's no more transfer window. So you're just going to have to roll this out to the end here. You're in fifth place. You need to start winning some games here. Otherwise, you're going to be in a tournament, and you don't want to be in a tournament. Just get to second, best you can. Just get to second. You don't have to worry about
Third
anything.
is what they need, but yeah,
Yeah.
get to second. Yeah.
Get to second.
That's his hometown team, is what it sounded like. But he decided to come back to the Dodgers, where he means a lot more to that franchise, I think, than he would anywhere else.
Plus two, Shohei's there. You know you want to be a part of that. Even if
Yeah.
you're a relief pitcher for 1 or 2 innings. That's
it's gonna
probably
be
what he's
fun.
gonna be, So
It's gonna be fun.
yeah.
And then Jose Altuve signs an extension, 5 years, 125 million. He's gonna stay in Houston. And then we had a little bit of a bombshell during Super Bowl week in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas mayor said that the A's should probably try to make it work in Oakland and that the plan doesn't make sense, which sounds really fucking familiar because
Well,
we've been saying that for 2 years on this show.
You know what's funny is Manfred made that call, or somebody in MLB made that call and made her, can you please walk that back?
Yeah, walking it back. Moonwalk, baby.
The thing is, though, when she walked it back, all she said was, we're excited to potentially have the A's here, and then double down on her original comments. If you read what she said and look up the video of what she said they're still excited to have the possibility of MLB, but then double down on the shenanigans and lack of plan.
What I liked about the video was how they were able to crop out how she was holding up a newspaper with today's date on it.
Right.
Like a hostage.
So,
God.
I mean, it just, there's just been so many issues with the plan to go to Las Vegas. I think the sound of fans and citizens that I think there is a fandom that wants a Las Vegas team, MLB team, and it sounds like they deserve a team. But I think the best route is expansion. And I think other MLB owners, why would you want to sacrifice a relocation fee and at the same time losing an expansion market? So you're just you're leaving so much money on the table. Additionally, if John Fisher moves, there was a plan that he was going to go to Sacramento. If he goes to Sacramento, NBC already said, we're not paying you that money. You're not in the Bay Area market. So
Yeah,
now you're losing to
renegotiate.
$70 million. You're going to lose that. They're not going to give you 60. They're not going to give you 50, so whatever I think a good percentage difference would be, look at something. I know the Warriors are championship right now, but look at something that the Warriors are getting and what's the percentage discrepancy of what the Kings get, because that's based on a regional market. Those contracts were signed a long time ago, and you could see the percentage difference, and I think that would give you a ballpark of how much lower the A's would get, because the ratings that you're going to get in Sacramento, Utah, or anywhere else is going to be significantly less than what's the Bay Area market is. So you're losing money. John Fisher clearly has no plan. How many stadiums has the A's have announced? There's San Jose and Fremont, Laney, Howard Terminal. You know, I mean, it just goes
There was
on
some,
and on and
yeah,
on and on and on. You ain't gonna get shit done.
yeah. I mean, they're so excited to get out of Oakland, like that they're throwing away $70 million just
Right.
to get out of Oakland. And that's the only reason why I believe that this is actually still going to happen, why they are going to end up leaving, is because if they're this anxious to get the hell out of our town, and they're willing to sacrifice $70 million to do it, when the man only spends $50 million on payroll, it just tells me that they're done with us and they don't want our money anymore. And for that, I say, fuck you.
I mean, he wasn't gonna get it anyway. So the way he wanted it, he wanted all of the money, not a portion of the money.
I think the only way the city of Oakland would have had a chance at retaining the A's is a blank check. You know, he wants all of it paid for, the tax incentives. You know, there was the talk of the rezoning of tax districts and things like that, that the A's wouldn't have to pay taxes and a tax credit would go to them to help pay off their loans and blah 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 blah. It just, you know, he wanted a blank check. He wanted it all built on other people's money. And to me, it's as if he wanted to risk the Oakland General Fund. You know, that to me is what's really suspicious about all of this.
Yeah.
Is that the city of Oakland has secured more money than Las Vegas. And it doesn't, nothing adds up. There's no plan there, you know, so
The
I get
more
where you're
money
coming
came
from, Vince, but at the
what?
same time, I said I get where you're coming from, that he may not want to be here, but at the same time, he may not have the ability to put a deal together anywhere else.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
and if this thing goes past, like, if this is
May, I think at
next
this point,
year,
May, yeah,
if it's this time next year and you don't have a deal in Oakland and you don't have a binding deal, because he signed an agreement and there's a vote, but there's not a binding contract for Las Vegas. There's no binding agreement because they don't have a stadium plan. They don't have architecture plans. There is no, he doesn't have financing in place to fund the additional money. So
I know.
until
that's why
the
does not
stadium
make
is
sense.
under construction, I don't.
Well,
No,
so
I mean, what I think is going to possibly happen if John Fisher's this thing, if he fishers this up, I think Salt Lake ends up being the backup plan, and then he sells to the fucking Ryan Smith or whoever it is out there, and then the team goes to Salt Lake, because I genuinely think Manfred is done with Oakland, and they don't want the money to come from the way that Oakland secured it. Like you said, I think they wanted to make sure that the city of Oakland is on the hook. But because Oakland was able to get grants from the federal government and from the state government, and they were able to put together the pieces to make improvements without risking the city of Oakland's fund, and that's like, no, I'm not fucking you over good enough. You know, I need you to owe me. That's what I think this has come down to.
I agree. I
so
agree.
they have until May, right?
I would say May, probably the end of May is to get whatever they need to get figured out for 25, 26, and 27.
What I mean is May for the location, because it's getting torn down no matter what.
Well, it's going to take about 8 or 9 months. So basically through the end of the year for like all the demolition and cleanup and everything to happen on the Tropicana. So for it to become a completely flat, empty lot, it's going to take about 8 or 9 months. So I would say they probably have about 5 months.
I would say less than that. I'd say
it's probably less than that. I agree.
I'd say he needs to come with a plan in May. He needs to come with a plan in May, because Bally's going to be like, I'm tearing this down. I need to know, if I'm tearing this down, I'm going to build something.
Oh, yeah, you know,
if I don't have anything, I'm moving on. I've got to go.
I would say probably mid-June, maybe something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to go to
Watch
Salt
out
Lake,
for this
maybe.
Flag Day. Watch out for Flag Day. There.
I think Salt Lake is a realistic thing too.
Mhm.
But at this point, I don't understand how. Okay, I generally, this is what I don't understand. If I'm an owner, right, and I make money off of all my owners being successful just as much as I am, right? Because we bring in more money, more revenue sharing for all of us, right? How do you allow a commissioner who's supposed to make you money allow this to happen for so long when you're supposed to already have two expansion teams to, let me get this straight, expand the revenue sharing because you got two more teams now in the mix, but you can't because you need Tampa Bay and you need Oakland, or at least the A's, to finish up their stadiums. And guess what? They haven't finished up their stadiums. So how, as an owner, do you go, Manfred is the best man for the job. He's making us a bunch of money. We could make more, but he's doing just damn fine with what he's
But I
doing with
think
these two
that's kind of
teams.
I think that's kind of the problem with baseball, where you look at the NFL, right? You got Godell, and you may not agree with his plans. You may not agree with how the NFL does things, but you get it. There's a plan. You understand, they how they do the draft. They're the best at monetizing the draft and the what is it? The scouting combine. All they turn the draft into a 2-night primetime event where the first round is must-see television. The first round has its own night now.
Mhm.
You may not agree with it, you may not like it, but you get the plan. You get the idea. I don't like the Peacock thing. I don't like how they're on Peacock and Prime and all these other streaming things, but I get it because I get the plan of getting money and that type of thing, right? I get that they want teams to have a new stadium because it guarantees a Super Bowl into the city, and you now know that Las Vegas is going to be in the routine. They're going to get another one very, I don't know, six
Yeah.
7 years from now, something like that. They're going to be in the
It might
in
be
the routine.
4. It might be
might be
4 years.
sooner.
Like it's gonna I think they're gonna come back to Vegas as often as possible because that city is turnkey for a Super Bowl.
Right.
They have the stadium
It's
now.
made.
Yeah.
It's ready to go. So
I mean,
and
everybody
then
that
you
was
also
down
have
there, man.
you also have the power guys as owners. You got the Jerry Joneses, the Bob Crafts. You have owners. Remember when the Raiders and the Chargers were trying to team up and they were like, we're going to go here. We're going to Inglewood. And then Jerry Jones and Bob Kraft said, nah. Jerry was like, you're going to Vegas. You're going to LA. Done. And it was done. I mean,
Yeah.
it was game over.
Mhm.
And the NBA, you kind of have something similar. Like Adam Silver seems like he's the owners respect him. I don't think he's the best publicist of the game, the best like speaking on behalf of the game.
Right.
He seems to be like a very coherent, cerebral commissioner that loves his sport, loves what's going on, is trying to grow the game, wants to try different things. But there's owners within the NBA that have power, have a voice, that get things done. Okay. And there's a few owners in the NBA that do that. MLB, name an owner that's like, you go here, you go there, you do this. This is what we do.
Yeah,
It's kind of like they're all John Fishers. I mean, for the most part, I would say half the league is more like John Fishers than, say, the Steinbrenner family. The Steinbrenners, like, I don't like the Yankees because I'm not a Yankee fan, but I respect the ownership of the Yankees. I respect the ownership of the Dodgers. I even respect the ownership of the Padres now for being all in, for trying to win something. I respect that, especially in a sport that's uncapped. It's like the softest cap in all of major sports. You can do pretty much whatever you want. Look at the Dodgers. But there's nobody really leading the charge of what's right for baseball, what's good for baseball. Manfred came out of the analytics division. He's the one that his pet project was MLB TV and MLB.com. He was the tech guy. That's what he was leading. So I don't, this is the same guy that said, the World Series trophy is a piece of metal. Does he love the game? It seems like, from Bud Selig to Rob Manfred, we've just had a slew of people leading baseball that don't truly love the sport or care about their communities. So I'm kind of like, this is to be expected. Half the league is John Fisher's. Look at the clowns in thankfully they just sold, but Baltimore, Pittsburgh,
The Angelos family, yeah.
the Angelos family. You could go down half the league. They're looking for money from the government, subsidies. Milwaukee is looking for money to fix up their stadium where they just had it. It's not that old, and they need $500 million or whatever it is to update the stadium. So pay for it your damn self.
I know. You can make 500 million in the season.
You pay for it your goddamn self. Like, the government is not charity. We're not here to give away things. Put a good product on the field and the fans will support it. The fans will buy tickets and watch it on TV and buy the app and buy the merch and this and that. We'll put a damn good product on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Stop putting this dog shit loser out here.
All right, and
God, I'm so mad again.
I know. Every time there's a baseball note, we're like, okay, buckle up, guys, because we're gonna go on a fucking ride. Yeah. So that clears up our schedule. Is there anything else sports-wise we need to talk about, or are we gonna start playing some pan flute music and trying to bring our blood pressure down a bit?
Yeah. Wrap it up. It's the wrap it up.
Yeah.
So Papa G says every time Fisher gets to a point that his money is needed, he runs off to the next idea. And that's
of course
completely right. 1,000,000%.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm ready to watch the Warriors and maybe not have my blood pressure go down depending on how the game goes. But but maybe I'll be relaxed for at least two more quarters.
Yeah, like cruise at a 105 pulse instead of the 120 I was cruising at the entire football game yesterday. God.
Was it 6 Dr. Peppers later?
That's right.
Oh, man. All right, boys.
They were doing 5 when I had 5 Dr. Peppers. When I went to that 6, that's when it all turned around. It's my fault they lost. It's nothing that happened on the field. It's all on me. I'm going to take the L. All right.
All right, boys. I'm going to send us off here. You are listening to the SVT podcast. Subscribe on YouTube and hit the bell to get alerts when we go live. Follow us on Instagram and Threads at SVT Sports Pod. Slide into our DMs. We would love to interact with all you beautiful people.